Today I'm going to be making a video that I've wanted to make for quite a while now but never really felt ready to, if that makes sense. Basically, I'm going to be talking about how you can start out on YouTube and what it's like to be a small YouTuber, and answering some questions that I've got on Instagram. Just to clarify, this video isn't like how to get 1 million subscribers, because as you can tell from my subscriber count, I'm not really qualified to make that type of thing. But I quite often get questions about how to start out and some tips on like setup and all that type of thing, so I thought I'd just make a video about it. Okay, so the first thing that you have to kind of get past in order to have a YouTube channel is to have a YouTube channel and set it up and everything like that. You don't need loads of fancy equipment when you're first starting out. In fact, when I first started, I literally had an iPad and that was it. Like, I filmed on it, I edited on it, I did everything on it. You don't need a big fancy camera and like £200 editing software and all of that stuff. I actually still just use my phone to film. It's not ideal, I would like a camera, but you don't need a camera and you don't need like Final Cut Pro and all that stuff. But what I would recommend you have is something that you can film on, whether it's a camera or not. A tripod is really useful. It doesn't even have to be that expensive. They can get into like the hundreds of pounds. You don't need one like that. Mine was £15, and again, it's not the best thing in the world, but like, it still works for what I need it for. I would also say that if you have access to a PC or a laptop, that is going to help, because you need to be on the web version on a computer of YouTube to set up channel art, profile pictures, thumbnails, and to access the YouTube Creator Studio, which I'll talk about in a second. So having a computer rather than an iPad or a phone to manage your YouTube channel and stuff like that is definitely very helpful. In terms of editing software, as I said, you don't need like Final Cut Pro or anything. Well, it kind of depends on what type of video you make, but if you're just making normal talking videos like this, or if you look at the other videos on my channel, that type of thing, you don't need a big fancy £300 editing software. I actually used iMovie just on my phone when I first started. I did everything on my phone. I filmed on it after I'd stopped filming with my iPad, and I also did all my editing on it, just with the free version of iMovie that you get with Apple stuff. And I used that until about Christmas last year. So if you look at some of my older videos, which aren't the best, but if you want to see what type of editing that gets you, if you want to look at them. I also used external apps as well, such as, I don't even know what they were called, but I used some video editing things, and there was one that was like, I think it was called Quick. It was like for GoPro editing, and that really helped for intros and stuff, which I did at the time, which I don't really do anymore, but you know the type, like montages with fancy editing and stuff. And I'm sure there's Samsung equivalents as well, but basically you don't need more than a phone and a tripod to set up everything at first. In terms of the actual setup, like your background and everything like that, lighting is more important than a background. If you don't have access to a ring light or studio lights or anything like that, make sure you're sat in front of a big window or something like that before you think about the background, because lighting changes the video so much more than a decent background does. But yeah, prioritize lighting over your background, and then think about making the background a bit more interesting. You don't want it too busy, otherwise that kind of distracts from you and the video. If you can blur it out, even better. I can't because I film on my phone, but if you can, that's perfect. Another thing that you'll need to think about before you upload your first video or make your first video is your channel art and the way your channel looks. Channel art, again, I wouldn't recommend making it too busy or anything like that. Just something kind of simple. Mine is the epitome of simple, so maybe not like that, but basically if you like the way it looks, then it's gonna reflect your channel, so just do what you want to do with channel art. With your profile picture, YouTube profile pictures aren't necessarily the same as Instagram or Twitter profile pictures. For example, this is my Instagram and Twitter profile picture, and this is my YouTube one. They're very different, and basically why this is because if someone was scrolling through a comment section on someone else's video and saw this, you would probably think that looks like a YouTube channel, and then people might actually check you out. Whereas if it looks like this, it's just going to look like a personal account thing that you use for commenting on videos and subscribing and stuff like that. So if you can get a profile picture that's something more like, you know, white background, be a bit posy if you want to, that's just because I like to be posy, then I would recommend doing that over just a regular selfie type thing. Also, maybe figure out how you're going to style your thumbnails, which is, if you don't know, it's what people click on, like the little picture next to your video. Try and keep them in some sort of theme, but you don't don't have to be too strict with them, and make sure that they kind of reflect what the video is actually about, rather than, you know, being super clickbaity, which again I'll talk about in a second. Okay, so that's everything you're gonna need to think about before starting your channel, but then you kind of have to consider what you're gonna make for a first video. My approach to my first video was that I just wanted to make it like any other video on my channel would be like. So I made a morning routine, which was not great. It's private because there was some copyright issues, but morning routine was a good one for me, or something similar to that, because that way you can play around with filming and editing and just like experiment with it all and get used to everything before then starting making chatty videos and stuff like that. You could do something like that, or a lot of people try to do something sort of introducing themselves, which is a good idea. I chose not to do that because I sort of just wanted to introduce myself by being myself in my videos, and then people will kind of get who I was and stuff. But it could be useful to make a video sort of saying, I'm this person and I'm this age and this is the type of videos I'm gonna make, because then you can set that as your channel trailer and you won't have to go through the long process of setting your new video to your channel trailer every single week, which is a nightmare, which is what I have to do. Also, before you make it, you've got to kind of decide if you're going to have a theme to your videos. So are you going to be a crafts channel or a music channel or a gaming channel or whatever? You don't have to have a theme, but if you're going to have one, you're going to need to think about that before your first video, because then you can kind of go into detail about that in your first video and explain it and stuff. And once you have a channel and your first video is on your channel, by the way, don't be too harsh on yourself on your first video. It's not going to be perfect. Just remember, it is your first time doing something. Mine was far from perfect, and I uploaded it and it did okay. It's not the end of the world. Just think that this is my first video, so I have this much room to improve. It's not the end of the world if it's not perfect. But anyway, once it's up, you're going to need to think about getting people to look at your channel, because even though YouTube isn't all about the numbers for most people, you're still going to want at least a small community of people watching your videos and stuff, because that just makes it a lot more interesting and fun having people to talk to in the comments about, yeah, I like that thing too, and stuff like that. There's a few ways you can do that, one of which is your thumbnails. As I said before, it's kind of important that they reflect the content of the video, and then people will click on them and then also enjoy the video rather than just clicking on it to get you views. And that's another reason it's important to have a computer that you can access, because I'll just give an example of what my thumbnail is for this video here and what the YouTube automatic thumbnail would have set it as here, which I don't know, it might not even be that bad, but that's what it would have set it as. It basically just chooses a random point of the video and puts it as your thumbnail. If you have other social medias like Instagram, Twitter, Tumblr, etc., mention when you've uploaded. I would recommend not doing it in a whole post or whatever, but like on Instagram, put it on your story, or on Twitter, just tweet it out like, hi, I uploaded a video or whatever. And then that's a way to get the people who are already following you on there, so presumably have like the same interest as you or whatever, to then look at your channel. Another thing I did when I first started out that I don't particularly do anymore is collabs. There are two different types of collabs. There's collabs where it's like you and a person and you're making a video together, and then there are collabs where you and another person with a YouTube channel make a video with a certain theme. So for example, you both make a morning routine, or you both make a video based off, I don't know, but you've probably seen them before and people are like, this video is a collab with this person, but that person isn't actually in the video, if you know what I'm saying. And that's also a good way to get talking to people and make friends in the YouTube community, which is another thing I'll talk about in a second, but that's just a really good thing to do. There's other things you want to think about as well, such as intros and end screens, which are some things that some people like and some people don't. I used to have an intro and an end screen. I then have had neither of those things for a long time, and I'm in the process of making an end screen at the moment, so that might be at the end of this video, I don't know. But most bigger YouTubers have end screens. It's those things at the end of the video which have like, this is my last video, this is my vlog channel, and subscribe here, or whatever like that. They take quite a long time to make, intros and end screens, so think about that before you make them. But if you do want them, again, a computer is helpful, especially for end screens, because you can do all the links and everything. So that's starting. That's just one part of the video, believe it or not. I think this might end up being quite long. But once you have actually started and maybe you've got a couple hundred subscribers or whatever, and basically you can class yourself as a small YouTuber, that's an interesting experience, let me tell you. So I'm just going to talk about what it's like being a small YouTuber. Once you get to like a few hundred subscribers, there's going to be a few people in your comment section wanting to make internet friends or whatever, which is something I've never been particularly good at, but it is good to have a couple of people in the YouTube community who you can talk to about making videos and stuff like that. If you watch either of my videos on small YouTubers, basically like loads of them are these people for me. Because your friends like in real life won't really understand a lot of it because they don't have YouTube channels, it's quite nice to have people to talk to about it and sort of like relate to about stuff, and to ask for tips on should I do this or how do I edit this and stuff like that. And again, you can do that through commenting on their videos. Just leave them a compliment, and then if they check out your channel, cool, and then just like follow each other on Twitter or something. It's not actually as easy as it sounds, but that's basically what you do. It's pretty easy to get focused on the numbers around your YouTube channel as well when you're at a smaller level, because what tends to happen is you'll get like no subscribers for ages and then you'll get loads and then none. For example, I gained about 100 subscribers in like a week, just in this 1 week in August, and then after that I sort of just went back to normal with how many subscribers I was getting, and I'd become quite focused on the numbers while I was gaining quickly, and then when they started going down I was sort of getting really demotivated about making videos and considering making like mainstream content that people were all watching, and eventually I was just like, no, just make what you want, it doesn't matter about the numbers. But it is easy to get focused on them. What I would recommend if you like catch yourself being upset about the fact that your recent video got less views than your other ones, do something like giving yourself a rule that you can't look at your view count for a week or something like that, or you can't look at your subscriber count until you upload your next video and things like that. But it is easy when you get focused on numbers to do things such as making really mainstream content that isn't really you, but you want to make it anyway because it gets views, or clickbaiting. I wouldn't recommend clickbaiting. A general rule that I've spotted with people who clickbait is that the more someone clickbaits, the more annoying their fans and audience tend to be. If you're trying to build up a community of people who are like you, just be yourself and make what you want to make, and then people who like what you make and like you and have the same interests as you will then come to your channel, and then you've got a really nice community, which is what I have. Thanks guys. But if you clickbait, for example, if I made, let's think, what's one of my recent videos? Like the last Q&A I did, the title is something like thoughts on Team 10 and something else. What a lot of YouTubers do is take the most dramatic point of the Q&A and emphasize it by like 100 times and then make that the title. If I'd done that in that video, it would have been like shade on Jake Paul and Jake Paul is a bad person and all of that stuff, and it was, you know, I could have done that. Realistically, that probably would have got 10 times more views. But would the type of people who watch my other videos and types of people who are like me click on that type of video? No. So what's gonna happen if you clickbait is you're gonna get loads of people hating on you for clickbaiting, loads of people hating on you in general because there's more people coming to your video who don't actually like the video, and it's just not gonna be great. So I wouldn't recommend clickbaiting. If you want to do it, then do it, whatever, I can't stop you, but I wouldn't say that it's a good idea. In terms of making mainstream content, I feel like there's a lot of pressure to be original if you don't make mainstream content. It seems to be on YouTube, people expect you to either make really mainstream content or no mainstream content, and you can go sort of in the middle. So don't feel pressured to make videos that are like trending right now or whatever, but also don't feel pressured to not make them. You are allowed to be unoriginal sometimes and make a challenge video or something like that. Basically just make whatever content you want to make and be honest with what your content is about. Talk about your interest and be yourself, and then there'll be more people coming to your videos and watching them that are like you, and then you'll just have a nicer audience. Time management is a big issue, especially when you are a teenager and in high school, or even like an adult with a job. I suppose that's probably quite hard too. YouTube videos take a lot longer to make than people tend to think, so try and give yourself a sort of schedule and leave time in your week to film and edit and upload and stuff like that. But also, if you are just too busy and you need to take a break, don't be too hard on yourself, just take one, it's fine. Prioritize things like school and work over YouTube, because at the end of the day they're probably going to be more important, but still try and give yourself sort of like a deadline. For example, for me, I try to never go over 2 weeks without uploading. Also, don't start YouTube if you're expecting to get a load of money from it and that's why you're doing it, because trust me, you don't. I don't personally monetize my videos, which is where you get paid for making them, but from what I can understand, you get like £1 per 1,000 views or $1 per 1,000 views, whatever, which means that over the entire year and a half that I've been on YouTube, I would have made about £25, which I know is like, it's money, isn't it? Like, it's still money. That's what a lot of people at school say to me when I tell them I don't monetize my videos. They're like, well, even if it's like £25 over a year and a half, it's still money. But there are things that come with monetizing your videos which then like you can't do. For example, you can't use copyrighted music if you monetize your videos. Most music is copyrighted. Like, any good music pretty much is copyrighted. Even with smaller artists that you would never expect to be copyrighted, most of them are. So if you want to use genuinely good music, it's quite hard to do that and still monetize your videos at the same time. I don't know how big YouTubers, like DIY type YouTubers, use charts music and still get paid for doing YouTube, because that wouldn't work for me. So for example, in all of my kind of travel diaries and montage videos and stuff like that, none of them would be able to be monetized because they have music in them. This video would be able to be monetized if I wanted it to be, but a lot of my other ones wouldn't be able to, so it sort of limits your content a little bit, and it's just not worth it for me personally. This video is really long, so I'm going to stop now, but thank you for watching if you've watched this far. I hope it was helpful to any of you who might want to start out on YouTube, or if you are a small YouTuber and you can relate. And yeah, I will see you next time. Cue my snazzy new end screen if I end up making it in time for the end of this video. Bye!